Hello everybody, today we're going to learn Daily Tanya 4, Kaf Chet Iyar, Tafshin Peidah. First I wanted to say Happy Yom Yerushalayim to everybody. And let's get to it. So we were talking about Hashem's transcendence, Hashem's immanence. We were talking about sort of how the transcendence allows a sort of universal closeness to Hashem, whereas the immanence of Hashem's revelation is what actually generates a hierarchy of spirituality. Things that are sort of more directly, things that more directly kind of reveal Hashem's will, reveal Hashem's plan, reveal Hashem's presence. Those things are more spiritual, whereas the other things are less spiritual. Things that reveal less are less spiritual, and sort of the higher worlds are the more spiritual ones, and the lower ones are the less spiritual ones. The Hashem's presence is more hidden. So let's continue to chapter 52, Perek Nun Bet. So he says, and just as in the case of a human being, so the better part of one's sort of animating spirit is revealed in the mind, which is sort of something that's good to remember. This is connected more to classical philosophy than it is to sort of modern, more kind of romantic stuff where they believe that the life is in the heart. That's a fundamental, that's kind of a fundamental, what do you call it? It's like a flipping, it's like an inversion. That's what it was like for. It's an inversion. In classical thought, life resides first and foremost in the mind. And this is sort of falling off of that, just it's sort of expressing that truth. Tanya agrees with that here. V'chol ha'ivrim, right, and all the body parts מקבלים אור וכוח לבד המאיר להם ממקור גילוי החיות שבמוחין. Okay, so the rest of the body sort of just receive. They don't receive the sort of animating force itself from the mind that remains in the mind, but they receive impressions from it. They receive sort of direction from it. They receive what you call sort of rays of light from it. You could think about it like that. Kacha mamash, so just like that, aderech mashal, right, as you could say as a parable. Ikar gilui klalut hamshachat hachayut, להחיות העולמות והברואים. Okay, so he's going to tell us what is, you could think of it as in a similar way to sort of the mind of the world, the mind of the world, right? And he's going to tell us what that is, right? And in this mind is the sort of the better part of the animating spirit which animates the world. הוא מלובש ונכלל ברצונו וחוכמתו ובינתו יתברך, הנקרא בשם מוחין. Okay, so in other words, this animating spirit emanates from what we might call the mind of God, right? The Chochmah Bina, that's the Meichin, right? V'hen hamelubashim b'Torah mitzvoteh, and those things are sort of tucked within the Torah and the mitzvahs. In other words, the Torah and the mitzvahs are a direct expression of Hashem's wisdom and His will. V'gilui klalut hamshacha zu, okay, and the revelation of this sort of more general drawing down of Hashem's like, this is a word by word translation, but it's not. It doesn't really capture the essence. It's sort of like, so there's sort of Hashem's will and Hashem's wisdom, which is within the Torah and the mitzvahs. It's encapsulated there in a sense. It's out of choice, right? It doesn't encapsulate the infinite per se, but it's sort of a choice made by Hashem. And the Torah sort of begins to reveal itself through another spiritual entity that he's going to explain what it is. Okay, and so this entity is the source of life, right? Like the mind in a human being. Right, where each world and each individual being receives from it its portion. רק הערה מתפשטת ומאירה ממקור זה. right? So it receives sort of impressions from it, right? Every being that's created receives impressions from it, from this sort of source of the animating spirit, which he's going to, or the seat of the animating spirit, what he's going to talk about. כדמיון אור המתפשט מהשמש על דרך משל, so like as the rays of the sun sort of emanate out from the sun, וכוחות איברי הגוף מהמוח, right, and the different sort of powers and capabilities that exist within the different parts of the body, the way that they receive their animating spirit from the mind. And this source, this sort of mind of the world, what is it called? It is called the Alma Deis Gaia, which is the world of revelation, Umatronita, and the matron, V'imatata, and the lower mother, right, as opposed to the higher mother, which is a whole other concept that we're not going to get into now. V'shchina. Okay, it's also called the Shchina, and that's the sort of, so in other words, he's saying the Shchina, and he's going to explain further. Milishon v'shachanti betocha. The Shchina means sort of Hashem's dwelling, Hashem's indwelling, Hashem's dwelling within the world, right? Al Shem shemakol zeh hu reshit eitgalut, right? In other words, that this spiritual entity known as the Shechina is the seat of Hashem's revelation in the world, from which it's kind of spreads and emanates out. Right? Okay, so it's like we said, it's from this sort of central point that Hashem reveals himself in the world. Hashem doesn't reveal himself in the world equally, right? We said there's a hierarchy. So you could think of it as a central point where Hashem sort of concentrates the sort of Hashem reveals himself in a sort of most direct fashion, and from there it kind of emanates out. Or you could think of this spatially, as in Beis HaMikdash, but you could also think of this in time, as in Matan Torah, but you could also think of it sort of more abstractly in a sense that there is a singular point of revelation of Hashem in the universe, which is sort of the central meaning of the world. And when things are more in line with that meaning, then they are closer to that, they express it better. When things are further from that meaning and they express that meaning, maybe more indirectly, they participate in that meaning to a lesser degree, and so they're, so to speak, further away. וממקור זה נמשך לכל אחד האור וחיות פרטי הראוי לו ושוכן ומתלבש בתוכם להחיותם. Right, and it is from this source that each being, each world, every sort of created entity kind of receives the impression of this sort of seat of divine revelation. It receives impressions from it based on its proximity to it and how it reveals Hashem's existence. V'lechen nikra em habanim, right? And that's why the Shechina is called the mother of the children. Al derech mashal, right? In the sense that it is the sort of that it gives life forth, and it sort of brings forth a sort of multiplicity and hierarchy of different revelations. Knesset Israel, right, and it's also called Knesset Israel, right? Shemakol ze netzlu neshama datzlut v'nivru neshama debriya v'chu, right? It's called Knesset Israel, not as in the Knesset, right? But as in sort of that which ingathers all of that which it gathers into itself all of the neshamas of Israel. It's also the source of the neshamas of Am Yisrael. Right? From there, the neshamas of Atzilus were emanated, and the neshamas of Bria were created, and so on. וכולן אינן רק מהתפשטות החיות והאור מהמקור הזה נקרא שכינה. Right? And all of these neshamas and all of this sort of emanations and so on are sort of, you can think of it as rays of light, sort of emanations, sort of impressions of this sort of ultimate source of revelation. Right, just as light emanates from the sun, so you could think of all these sort of different impressions, right? These neshamas are, you could think of them as impressions that emanate out from the Shekhinah. And so we're going to stop here, and we're going to continue tomorrow. So happy Yom Yerushalayim, everyone, and we should be zochet to the Geula Hamitis V'Shlema very, very soon. Have a good day.